Des yeux qui font baisser les miens, un rire qui se perd sur sa bouche, voilà le portrait sans retouche de l'homme auquel j'appartiens. Quand il me prend dans ses bras, qu'il me parle tout bas, je vois la vie en rose. Il me dit des mots d'amour, des mots de tous les jours, ça me fait quelque chose. Il est entré dans mon cœur une part de bonheur dont je connais la cause. C'est lui pour moi, moi pour lui dans la vie. Il me l'a dit, l'a juré pour la vie. Des yeux qui font baisser les miens, un rire qui se perd sur sa bouche, voilà le portrait sans retouche.
You were just watching a trailer for Champagne Widow. Welcome to Central Valley Talk Live, our artists and authors show for Wednesday, the 16th of February. I'm Austin Reed, coming to you from our Tower District studios inside the Mike Briggs building. We thank you for joining us. We are going to kick things off with our first guest. Joining us live via Zoom is Rebecca. Rebecca, hello there. Good morning. Can you hear us? Hi there.
Where's your
Yeah, you know what? I was looking at you just before the interview, and I saw your glass, and I'm like, yeah. Here's what I have. I have an empty water glass.
I should have sent you some Veuve Clicquot who we're talking about.
Yeah, next time for sure.
Next time.
Rebecca, welcome. Thank you for joining us. So we were just looking at a trailer. Can you kind of tell us what that was?
Well, this is all about my new book, which is Champagne Widows, and it's about the first woman who ever got in the business in 1800, and she was a 20-year-old woman, and her biggest desire was to make champagne, but she had so many obstacles, it was crazy. She had to fight pandemics, just like we do. She had to fight mental illness. I won't tell you who, but mental illness. She had to fight 15 years of Napoleon's wars trying to take over Europe. All this to forge her champagne empire. So she's quite inspiring. Veuve Clicquot. And if you've ever been to a champagne bar, this is Veuve Clicquot, that beautiful orange label. And this book is all about that young woman who started it out, and it was truly nearly impossible for her to do what she did.
So tell me, this was based in France. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
And I would imagine, this took so much research and time and investigation work to put this together.
I take about 2 years to do the research and the writing of my books. This is my 4th book, and I'm actually writing the next Champagne Widows, so it will be a series. There are about three amazing widows. And why are they widows? So it turns out that women were not allowed to run businesses. They were not allowed to own businesses. So if they were a widow, then they could run their own business, and it was a little loophole in the law. So weirdly enough, these women would not get remarried once their husbands died, and they died in these Napoleon wars, fighting his wars. He killed maybe 6 million men out of France. And so the women, all these widows, did all the businesses in France. And that's really what the book is all about, is not only Veuve Clicquot, but all of the widows who took over all the jobs that their husbands used to do.
The thing I love about this book is, it talks about the pandemic. It talks about a war. It talks about sexism, and we are in the midst of stuff like that, right? You know, in 2022.
It's kind of odd, isn't it? From 1800, we don't seem to learn the lessons. But this is about resilient women who make it despite all the odds. So I love that. And it's a hopeful message in the end.
A bit about, you know, why she was so set on, without giving, you know, the story away, obviously, but why Champagne?
Well, she lived in Champagne. So to be clear, Champagne can only really come from Champagne, France. So what we have in America is sparkling wine, but Champagne can only be grown there. And do you remember who the first man who made champagne was, Austin? Do you remember?
Oh, who was it?
Dom Perignon. You've heard of that,
yeah.
right? Yeah, so in 1700s, Dom Perignon was just a monk who was working in the vineyards and making champagne, making wine for the king. And he discovered that their wine was starting to bubble. And he really discovered that way back then. But in the 1800s, here, Barbara Nicole Clicquot was actually a relative that had worked with Dom Perignon, and she knew that she had a certain talent called le nez, which means the nose. And her grandmother said, you were given this special talent and that you must carry on that dream that your great-great-grandfather who worked with Dom Perignon in those Dom Perignon vineyards carried on. So she was really obsessed with using this le nez. And of course, the reason for why is le nez important to champagne making or wine making in general is that about 75% of our sense of taste really comes from our sense of smell. So it's all about how things smell. And she had an amazing sense of smell and could make beautiful champagne.
You know, some of the early praise that you've had comes from Barbara Davis, best-selling author of The Last of the Moon Girl. She says, quote, I'm just going to read a quick quote, "The sun-drenched vineyards of France, a real-life heroine who, against all odds, refuses to give up her dreams, and champagne. What's not to love?" And then Martha Conway, another best-selling author of The Underground River and The Physician's Daughter, says, Champagne, quote, "Champagne Widows is an inspired story based on the real life is it Dom, right? Grand Dom?
Yeah, Dom of
Champagne. So a lot of people are liking this.
Well, thank you so much. I'm really excited about this latest one, which is the Historical Novel Society, National Historical Novel Society made this editor's choice. So I'm excited. I'm very excited about it, and especially since it's going to be a series of 3, and they're totally different stories. So it's a way to really celebrate women. I don't know if you know, Austin, that March is Women's History Month.
Oh, cool. Okay, very good.
Yeah, National Women's History Month. And it actually started here in Sonoma County. So I think it's really cool to celebrate the women who brought us champagne.
And that's where you're based in Sonoma. So you are here in California.
Yes.
So very good, very good.
Yes. I live in Sonoma Valley.
Yeah, beautiful.
And I'm Sonoma Valley.
There you go. Perfect person for this book. Do you, I mean, is it a woman in her 30s, or what do you think?
Well, I have seen the numbers on that, and actually it's really interesting to men as well, because it's all about her fight with Napoleon and how she has to, she really breaks the laws that Napoleon sets down, and she knew Napoleon. So that's exciting too. And so they're really battling it out. So I would say anyone, obviously, who loves champagne and who loves sparkling wine would really enjoy this book and the history that it brings.
This is going to be a series. So when right before book 2 comes out, you better come back and we'll talk about that, okay?
Okay, well, I'll have to send you your bottle of champagne so you can.
We'll be like, do you remember, was it Hoda and Kathy Lee? They always had champagne on the 4th hour of today, so.
There you go.
All right.
If anyone wants to know more,
yes.
I have my website, which is rebecca-rosenberg.com.
Very easy.
So you can drop.
And the book's on Amazon, of course, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. It's actually available at any bookstore or Amazon or Barnes and Noble. So you can order. The paperback comes out March 1st, but you can order it now. So, and you can get the ebook right now.
Very good. Rebecca, author of Champagne Widows, first book out now, series coming. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Austin. I appreciate it.
All right. I'm Austin Reed. You're watching Central Valley Talk, and this is Artists and Authors. We'll be back soon.
Des yeux qui font baisser les miens, un rire qui se perd sur sa bouche, voilà le portrait sans retouche de l'homme auquel j'appartiens. Quand il me prend dans ses bras, qu'il me parle tout bas, je vois la vie en rose. Il me dit des mots d'amour, des mots de tous les jours, et ça me fait quelque chose. Il est entré dans mon cœur une part de bonheur dont je connais la cause.